It all started with Eve eating the fruit from the forbidden tree. As a consequence of Eve's disobedience of God's command, he told her, "Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." The desire spoken of here is not sexual or psychological, both of which Eve had for Adam before the fall as his specially created helper. The word desire comes from an Arabic root word which means to seek control over. The Guzik Bible commentary interprets verse 16 as follows. The same word for desire shall be is used in Genesis 4:7, its desire, of the desire of sin to master over Cain. Because of this curse, Eve would have to fight a desire to master her husband, a desire that works against God's ordained order of the home. The principle of Adam's headship as a husband was established before the fall. Now the curse on Eve makes it much harder for her to submit and flow with God's institution of male headship in the home. As a result of the fall, man no longer rules easily. He must fight for his headship. Sin has corrupted both the willing submission of his wife and the loving headship of the husband. The woman's desire is to control her husband, and he will master her. So the rule of love founded in paradise is replaced by struggle, tyranny, and domination. Therefore, the curse on Eve was that woman's desire would henceforth be to usurp the place of man's headship, and that he would resist that desire and would eventually rule over her. The Hebrew word here for rule is not the same as that used in 128. Rather, it represented a new despotic kind of authoritarianism that was not in God's original plan for man's headship. With the fall and its curse came the distortion of woman's proper submissiveness and of man's proper authority. So from the fall right up to the cross, women have been forcefully and many a time brutally subjected by men. Women have a sinful inclination to usurp man's authority, and men have a sinful inclination to put women under their feet. The divine decree that man would rule over woman this way was part of God's curse on humanity. Women try to dominate men, who in turn just beat them into submission. The woman under this curse not only does not submit to her husband, she actually wants to control him. Let me explain. Gay marriages give us an insight into this problem. Who is the husband and who is the wife, they ask. This means that one of the partners takes on the role of a husband and the other one takes on the role of a wife. Knowing very well that there is a natural hierarchy in marriage, the question the feminists are asking is not about equality, but why do you get to be the husband? The modern day feminist will not stop until she has destroyed the marriage or she gets her way. But Paul takes marriage to how it was before the fall. Just as it was with Adam and Eve before the fall, he requires women to submit and men to love. Now reading Ephesians 5 will make a lot of sense. Wives, be submissive to your husbands and do not try to control or dominate them. And you husbands, do not lord it over your wives, but love them even as Christ loved the church. And now the Christian home returns to its pre-fall state, where the woman was man's companion, a friend or a helper, and not a servant or a slave. She is to be by his side and not under him. She is by no means inferior to him, as God has lavished a phenomenal amount of intelligence on her, basically as she assumes the primary role of bearing children and raising them to take their rightful place in the world. But as she is definitely the weaker partner, her husband is exhorted to treat her with respect as the weaker partner. If a woman is still trying to dominate or control her husband, she is going back to the curse of Genesis 3:16. Remember, the curse ends with the husband subjugating her. Any home where the woman is trying to dominate or control her husband, and where the husband retaliates and tries to beat her into subjugation, does not portray Christ's redemptive work and shows a return to the pre-cross era. For the modern day feminists, it is not just a question of equality, it is dominance. For this worldly woman, God does not exist, and so none of God's design of a godly home makes any sense. She rises in rebellion against man's dominance and tries to control him. And this will only be met with a violent response from her man. It is sad to see the Christian woman too wanting to go back to the curse. Many a genuine Christian husband, not willing to retaliate and subjugate his feminist wife, simply retreats from the fight and allows his wife to take over leadership. This is not of God either. By the way, the tree of knowledge of good and evil also has something to tell us. After Adam and Eve ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I believe that everyone knows what is good and what is evil, what is right and what is wrong. We may not be able to claim that we did not know, and I sincerely hope we don't end up rebelling against God's word.